In the last few minutes, President Trump has posted on social media saying Iran and Israel must, as he said, immediately stop shooting. The two sides have been attacking each other in the first such missile attack since the April ceasefire. Reports from Tehran say massive explosions have been heard in the city centre, while state media reported that Iranian air defences had shot down a drone over the capital. Earlier, the Israeli military said Iran had launched a new barrage of missiles towards Israel. Iran said it was responding to repeated violations by Israel of the ceasefire in Lebanon, including the targeting of the southern suburbs of Beirut. Well, before this escalation, President Trump had reportedly told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to refrain from further attacks. These are pictures from last night, where the first wave of Iranian missiles was detected just after 10 p.m. local time. Iran says its attacks are, quotes, the beginning of a full week of continuous strikes. The Israeli military said all the missiles were intercepted and there were no casualties on the ground. Meanwhile, Iranian state television said explosions have been heard in Isfahan, Tabriz and the capital, Tehran. Iran closed the airspace surrounding Tehran's Imam Khomeini International Airport. And these are currently the live shots from Beirut in Lebanon. Iran says its attack was in response to the repeated violations of the ceasefire by Israel, especially in Lebanon, that has seen repeated deadly Israeli attacks. President Trump had urged the Israeli Prime Minister not to retaliate against Iran. Well, the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen have also fired a missile towards Israel and said they would ban Israeli navigation in the Red Sea. This report from Nick Johnson starts our coverage this hour.
Iran launches missiles towards Israel for the first time since a fragile ceasefire was brokered in April. Israel's Iron Dome worked to intercept the missiles near the city of Haifa. A spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces said Iran had made a grave mistake. The IDF said it launched retaliatory strikes against military targets in central and western Iran. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said its missile launches marked the beginning of a full week of continuous strikes in response to Israel's military campaign in Lebanon.
If it expands its attacks in this region or retaliates against Iran's actions, it will suffer even more bitter setbacks, and destructive attacks will be launched against the regime and its supporters.
In parts of Tehran, the firing of missiles towards Israel was met with scenes of jubilation.
We felt a sense of pride that the capability still exists and the ability to make decisions still resides with our officials, so that they can give a befitting response to Israel and America and not back down.
Prior to Iran's missile launch, Israel struck the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital Beirut for the first time since last week's US brokered truce.
The IDF will continue to operate throughout Lebanon and intensify its strikes against Hezbollah. We will not allow continued firing at the citizens of the State of Israel.
All this as President Trump insists he's closing in on a permanent peace deal with Iran, one which Tehran says is incumbent upon Israel halting its campaign in Lebanon.
He's the first foreign head of state.
Mr. Trump also reportedly urged Israel not to retaliate for the Iranian strikes, and in an interview with the Financial Times said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept whatever deal the US negotiates with Iran because he, Mr. Trump, calls the shots. Israel's retaliation is in clear defiance of the president's desire to get a deal over the line. Here, in a statement on social media, the Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said the resumption of conflict between Iran and Israel is in no one's interest. Both sides must show restraint and de-escalate immediately. Negotiations must continue towards the lasting settlement that we all need for peace and stability in the region and for the full restoration of global trade. As the conflict surpasses 100 days, the latest strikes by Iran and Israel bring into sharp focus both the limits of American influence and the precariousness of peace in the region. Nick Johnson, BBC News.
Well, here the Prime Minister has said he is deeply concerned about the resumption of violence in the Middle East.
I'm deeply concerned about the resumption of violence. It is really important that all parties get back to a ceasefire. There are serious negotiations going on towards a lasting peace. It's really important that we give them every chance of success, because this conflict is already having a huge impact across the world, including here in the United Kingdom. So I say to all parties, we all have a responsibility to get back to that ceasefire, and it's really important that we're very clear about that.
Well, for more, I spoke to our correspondents in the region, Lina Sinjab in Beirut and Yulan Nell in Jerusalem.
There have been 4 volleys of missiles that have been fired towards Israel in the course of the morning. One of them coming from the Houthis, Iran's allies in Yemen, and the other 3 from Iran itself, setting off sirens from the north of the country right down to the very south. Here in Jerusalem, people were woken up to the sound of sirens for the first time in 2 months. In most people's cases, rushing off into the air raid shelters. The Iranians say that they have been targeting Israeli military bases. Now, we haven't got any verification of that, and I should say that here in Israel, reporting is under Israeli military censorship at such times. There are no Israeli reports at the moment of casualties, but of course this was happening after Israel earlier attacked Iran, also for the first time since that ceasefire came into effect back in April. And there have been reports of explosions in Tehran and other cities across the country. The Israeli military saying that it has been targeting defense systems within Iran to give it more freedom of operation there, and also that it several times hit a petrochemical complex in southwestern Iran. And all of this, the latest escalation began when Hezbollah, Iran's ally in Lebanon, fired into the north of Israel, expanding on the attacks that's been carried out against Israeli troops who are on the ground still in southern Lebanon. And this triggered a reaction where Israel then targeted a couple of apartments in Dahia in southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold, with at least 2 people killed there and others wounded. And that was seen as a red line that had been crossed by Iran, prompting it to fire at Israel last night, with Israeli media reporting 10 or 11 missiles that were fired and then intercepted.
Yulan, thanks very much. I just want to bring in also Lina Sinjab in Beirut. And Lina, just to say that the Iranian media, according to Reuters, are reporting the sound of explosions now in Tehran. And we've also heard the reports of the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Mr. Bagheri, saying the US holds direct responsibility in recent ceasefire breaches. Israel's actions cannot be separated from US policies. And Iran is very much blaming its retaliation on what's gone on in Beirut.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if we look at the course of events that happened on Friday, the Lebanese president blamed Iran, saying it's taking Lebanon as a bargaining chip in its negotiations with the Americans. And if we look at the whole war, whenever there is, a block in the negotiations between the Iranians and the Americans over the Strait of Hormuz, there is different escalation here in Lebanon. The Israelis want to separate Lebanon from the Iran case. The Iranians want to so much use Lebanon as a proxy, as they always used Hezbollah as a proxy. And after a deal that is announced and supported by the Americans to save Lebanon from further war and have a gradual ceasefire, Hezbollah fires rockets into northern Israel. The deal was safety of the Beirut in return of the safety of northern Israel. So Hezbollah is really here seen as acting on behalf of the Iranians, acting for the Iranians. And if we look at the regional implications, we see the Houthis now are involved. So it seems that the Iranians are very much using all their proxies in the region to escalate so that they pressure in their talks on the State of Hormuz thing. But the situation in Lebanon is that the country is paying the price, and it seems that all the efforts by the government to find a lasting solution are just thrown away.
Lina Sinjab in Beirut for us, and before that, Yulan now in Jerusalem.